You ever have one of those days? You feel like you're working your tail off, doing everything right, but you still get blamed when something goes wrong? It is one of the most frustrating feelings imaginable. Well, today we're going to dig into why that happens so often. And, believe it or not, how a little bit of data can become your absolute best defense against all that unfair blame.
I mean, really, think about it for a second. A customer gets angry, a project misses its deadline, some sales number is down, and suddenly all eyes are on you. But what if the problem wasn't you? Not at all. What if the real problem was the system you're forced to work in every single day?
Okay, so let's meet our guide for this whole journey. He's a brilliant, if famously grumpy statistician named W. Edwards Deming, and he saw this exact problem playing out decades ago. He basically said most of the time, management is blaming the players for a game that was rigged against them from the very start. So, where does this whole blame game even start? Well, it often begins with what Deming called the tyranny of the number. You know what I'm talking about. It's that management obsession with quotas, with individual performance scores, metrics that a lot of the time have absolutely nothing to do with actually doing a good job.
I mean, think about this example. A police officer's performance is judged mainly by how many tickets they write. Does that really encourage them to keep the community safe? Or does it just encourage them to, well, write more tickets? It forces them to chase the number, not the actual goal.
Or how about this one? A federal mediator gets a better performance rating for dragging a negotiation out for 3 meetings instead of solving it efficiently in just 1. The metric is literally rewarding inefficiency. It's completely backward. It's madness.
And this one is it's absurd. A hotel tells its cleaning staff that they are personally on the hook for towels that guests might decide to steal. I mean, how can any employee possibly control that? It's the perfect example of blaming an individual for a problem that is way, way outside of their control.
So you can see this isn't just unfair, it's actively destructive. Let's actually look at the real damage that this kind of management by numbers does to a whole organization.
Deming laid it out so clearly. This whole approach forces everyone to focus on hitting their number for this month. People start cutting corners, maybe even lying, just to make the quota, even if it hurts the company down the road. It creates fear, because if you miss your number, you're in hot water. And teamwork? Forget about it. It absolutely gets demolished. Why would I ever help you if your success makes my numbers look worse? It turns the whole office into a bunch of rivals.
And just listen to the human cost that Deming describes here. This isn't just some abstract business problem. It's a deeply human one. A system like this doesn't motivate people, it crushes them. It's a style of management that just fundamentally misunderstands what makes people want to do good work in the first place.
Okay, so if blaming people is the wrong move, what's the right one? Well, Deming's big idea was actually pretty simple, but it was revolutionary. He said, stop looking at the person and start looking at the process. Focus on the system.
And to do that, you have to get your head around this key idea called variation. Every single process has it. Think of it like this. A special cause is like a lightning strike. It's a rare, unpredictable, one-off event. But common cause variation, that's like the daily weather. It's just the normal ups and downs that are baked into the system. And Deming estimated that over 90% of problems are just the weather. They're part of the system itself.
So, here is the absolute most important point. When management punishes an employee for a problem that was really caused by the system, a common cause, they're not just being unfair, they are actually making the system worse. They're tinkering with something that isn't broken instead of fixing the real issue. Now this is where things get really good, because if management is using numbers as a weapon against you, you can use numbers as a shield to protect yourself. And what a relief to know there's a scientific way to finally stop the blame game. It all starts with looking at the data the right way.
Let's look at a real-world case. So, a freight company has 150 drivers. In 1 year, they made a grand total of 617 mistakes. Now, the old-school manager looks at that and says, aha, we've got some bad drivers. Time to crack down.
And that is exactly what they did. For every single mistake, didn't matter if it was a driver's first or their 15th, they sent out the exact same warning letter. They were just blaming everybody, hoping the problem would somehow just go away.
But then they tried something new. It's called statistical process control, or SPC. Now that's a fancy name, but it's a pretty simple idea. You use data to find the natural, predictable range of mistakes for any process. It creates something called an upper control limit. You can just think of it as a statistical fence. Anything happening inside the fence is just the system doing its thing. But anything outside the fence, that's a true outlier. That's a special cause that's actually worth investigating.
So they ran the numbers, and they found that the upper control limit was 11 mistakes. Now, look at that chart again, but with this new line drawn on it. All of a sudden, the data isn't just a jumble of random dots anymore. It's a clear picture. It's telling a story about what's really going on.
And the results were just stunning. Only 7 drivers were actually above that line. Those were the special causes. They accounted for about 18% of the mistakes, which means a whopping 82% of all those mistakes were just the normal, expected outcome of a flawed system. What a relief. The data proved it. The problem wasn't bad drivers, it was a bad process.
Just think about what this means for a minute. For every single driver who was working totally normally within that system and got a warning letter, the message from management was clear. You are being blamed for something that is not your fault. The data didn't just find the problem, it shielded all those innocent workers from blame. It's a way for any of us to finally say, hey, don't blame me, the data says the process is the problem.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, this isn't really about statistics. It's about a fundamentally better, more respectful, and frankly, a much more effective way to manage people.
The new job of management is actually pretty straightforward. First, stop the blame game. Just stop. Assume a problem is in the system until the data proves it's not. Second, use that data to actually understand what's going on. And third, focus all your energy where it's actually going to make a difference, improving the system for everybody.
So, I'll just leave you with this one last question. The next time something goes wrong at your job and the finger pointing starts, just ask yourself, are we looking at a bad apple or are we looking at a bad barrel? Because finding the answer to that question, well, that could change everything.